Hello everyone! We're gonna go one more week here without a solo movie review because I've got a few loose ends from last year that I'd like to tie up before much more time goes by. I'm calling them loose ends. They aren't really. It's more just a hodgepodge of random stuff I thought it would be interesting to share with you. First things first, I've got a couple new owls that I'd like to show you. This one is a Christmas owl. This is a Jim Shore figurine, if that means anything to you. It's, I believe, hand-carved and hand-painted. So it's a cute little owl wearing a Santa hat with a little bit of holly. And this one is a funny little guy. The color isn't really coming through here. It's a very bright, I guess orange. It's kind of a copper or bronze tone. I don't know. It's very shiny, very orange, very funny face. My mom thought that this might look good as a fall decoration, and I agree, so look for this probably in September. I also got this from my brother as a gag gift. It was definitely the most unexpected, most hilarious, but also kind of the most mortifying thing under the tree. It's a framed picture of Richard Denning with his sleeves rolled up, bearing his chest like a real He-Man. Yeah. I'm quite familiar with this picture. When I was working on my Richard Denning's sleeves video, it kept popping up, and I'd seen it before, and every time I see it, I'm just like, what is the context here? Is this from a movie? Is it a promotional image? Or was it a joke? I mean, the look on his face tells me this was a joke. I sure hope it was a joke. I did not use this image in that video, but I guess I couldn't escape it because here it is. I don't even have framed photos of my favorite actors, so this is unusual. I guess I'll have to get it out every time I talk about a movie that Richard Denning is in from now on. Oh, Richard Denning, quick! Da-da-da! Among the more serious gifts I got for Christmas, I got a couple books from my parents that I had asked for. One is Through Gates of Splendor by Elizabeth Elliot. This is the story of the 5 missionaries in the jungles of Ecuador. I am familiar with this story, the story of Jim Elliot and Nate Saint and the other 3 men, but I've never actually read this book, so I'm looking forward to it. It's a Christian classic. I've read 1 or 2 other books by Elizabeth Elliot, but not this one. This is a very nice feeling book. It's got that, it's not suede-y, I should know what this texture is. It feels really nice. The other book also has the same cover material. It's titled Evidence Not Seen, A Woman's Miraculous Faith in the Jungles of World War II by Darlene Diebler Rose. This is autobiographical about a missionary in Japanese prison camp during the war. I am not familiar with this story, so I look forward to reading this. I did hear that this is a description-heavy book, exposition-heavy, not a lot of dialogue, which makes it a pretty dense read, but a gripping one nonetheless. And my brother, he who bestows unique and thoughtful gifts, also surprised me with this. It's a board book version of Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This was it was put out by Lit for Little Hands, so presumably there are more things like this. Who knows what the Wuthering Heights version would be like? And it's got a text adaptation by Brooke Jordan and illustrations by Olga Skomarakova, with original quotes from the novel and tons of interactive elements. Those interactive elements they're talking about are little things like these little pullouts. And, let's find another one. There are a few of these things where you're supposed to put your finger in. Woo! put your finger in and you make it move, and then over here there's Helen, and then up there, and there's a page that has, this page has little flaps that you can open. Let me try to do this upside down. Those are bats in the belfry. I don't remember that in the book. And down here you open these little doors and whoop, who's that? Oh my. So, to all outward appearances, this is an adaptation of Jane Eyre made for babies. For a 2-year-old, I guess. That in and of itself is kind of crazy, but then when you take a closer look, and you might have already gotten a hint of this, no, I'm showing the book backwards. That's good. It really... There's no way any baby is going to understand this. Because while the story is abridged, it's condensed, there's Bertha. It's still the whole story, and I'm very surprised at some of the things that they included. There are elements in here that don't even make it into some of the film versions. Here we've got Blanche Ingram, and then over here, what's that? It's the Gypsy! What? And then you pull this thing, and voila, there's Rochester. And if you notice these little speech bubbles, I believe those are all the instances that are lines directly from the book. Again, no way any child under, let's be generous, under the age of 8 is going to understand what this means. Chance has meted you a measure of happiness, that I know. It depends on yourself to stretch out your hand and take it up. Glorious discovery to a lonely wretch. This was wealth indeed, wealth to the heart, a mine of pure, genial affections. To be privileged to put my arms round what I value, to press my lips to what I love, to repose on what I trust, is that to make a sacrifice? If so, then certainly I delight in sacrifice. Now here's this one. It is madness in all women to let a secret love kindle within them, which, if unreturned and unknown, must devour the life that feeds it. It's for kids. I give them a lot of credit for preserving the language and including original lines that are a little less common than the stuff that you see printed on mugs and t-shirts. I have a t-shirt with a famous line on it, and all of that stuff. But this is one of the craziest ideas. Who is this for? Is it just for people like me who will be like, oh, cool, a Jane Eyre board book, that's a novelty? Or did they really expect people to read this to their toddler? I'm very curious. Also, the artwork is very quirky. I don't know if you can get a good look at this, but every character has this sharp, pointy, red nose. Every single one. Look at Brocklehurst here. Look at that nose. Wow. And here's Rochester. It's kind of crazy, but I love it. By the way, I did not include this on the list of books I read last year, so the final total is 40, and I'm pretty happy with that. There are a few books that I read in the last couple months that I didn't discuss on camera, so I will quickly cover them here. Number 1, When in Rome by Sarah Adams, a romantic comedy about a pop star who flees the high life and hides out in the country. It was okay, predictable, very repetitive, with too many drooling descriptions of the main characters. It's told from alternating points of view, and just got really tired of hearing about how hunky he was and how gorgeous she was. Despite all the Audrey Hepburn references, Roman Holiday, this was not, but it had its cute, funny moments. Number 2, A Walk in the Sun by Harry Brown. This is the book that the 1945 Dana Andrews movie is based on. I really liked that movie, so I'm kind of biased in its favor, even though I only saw it once, and that was quite a few years ago now. But the book was good. It's a group of soldiers whose commanding officer has been killed shortly after their arrival in Italy, and they're wandering around with only a vague idea of their destination and their objective. It's a great snapshot of what went through the mind of the common foot soldier during World War II. It's good stuff. I just think I prefer the movie. Number 3, Miss Mackenzie by Anthony Trollope. A few months ago, a couple of you encouraged me to give Trollope another try, and gave this one an endorsement. So I stopped dithering and read it, and what do you know? You were right. I really enjoyed it. Miss Mackenzie is a lovely lady with a fairly good character arc. She makes some foolish mistakes, but the way she always handles herself with grace and dignity was admirable, and I could sympathize with her naive ignorance of societal expectations. The chapter about her sister-in-law's unlucky dinner party with the hoity-toity butler undermining everything was hilarious, but Trollope balances more frivolous material like that with a main quandary that is both realistic and significant. I was pleased with the story's outcome, and I found it a surprisingly quick read, considering it is Trollope, and I found it quite entertaining. So thank you for the nudge, ladies! Number 4 I own, so I can show you a physical copy, and it's a book that I got for Christmas last year, The Day We Bombed Utah by John G. Fuller. This is the 5th John G. Fuller book I've read, I believe, and he knocked it out of the park yet again. In this book, which was published in 1984, he investigates atomic testing on U.S. soil in the 1950s, the consequences of dangerous amounts of radioactive fallout, the government's denial about the amount of fallout, and how the truth eventually came out. Oh, that's better, not as much glare. It's another thoroughly researched and riveting work of investigative reporting. The way Fuller conveys information and data is both accessible and compelling. It does get scientific, and I'm not really a scientific person, but it's easy enough to follow, it's never boring or overcomplicated, and this time, it makes your blood boil. If you've ever heard about the notorious 1956 John Wayne movie The Conqueror and what ended up happening to many members of that film's cast and crew, then you kind of know where this book is headed. This book delves into that and then some. Unfortunately, because of the time it was published, it could only go so far, and it ends with a legal cliffhanger. I wished that there was an additional chapter or an afterword. This is a first edition. I don't know that there was another edition printed that might have added something. As it was, to find out what happened, I had to do some follow-up investigating of my own. And I found out that this topic continues to be relevant, with further legislation being passed just last year. The last book I read in 2022 was Snowbound at Christmas by Debbie Mason, which was, okay. It's a mystery romance. Very fast read, pretty forgettable. I wouldn't have chosen to read it if it wasn't part of a project that I'm working on this winter, which I will talk about more at a later date. Besides that project, I don't really have any big plans for 2023. There are reviews I thought I'd get to last year that I still want to do. There are reviews that I thought I would do 5 years ago that I still want to do, so maybe this will be the year. There's plenty of old movies I want to discuss. I'm sure I'll do a few more Hitchcock movie reviews, science fiction reviews, monster movie reviews, toss a costume drama in there every once in a while. I'm also slowly working my way through my list of viewer recommendations. It's hard to measure progress with that because I might take 2 movies off, but then I add 2 or 3 or 4, so the length always stays the same, but that's the nature of the beast. Late last year, I did make an effort to reorganize the list, which should make me more likely to actually pick movies from it, and Maybe you noticed last year I did start incorporating more mentions in the What Else I Saw series that, hey, this was a viewer recommendation. So I'm hoping to keep knocking off a few recommendations, requests, whatever you want to call them, each month. Over on my Ko-fi page, I did manage to share a few exclusive videos last year, and I'd like to keep doing that as a special thank you to those of you who support the channel there. It's hard for me to come up with ideas of things to do for special exclusive content, but the gears are always turning. I would like it to be kind of like a once a month thing, but I just can't guarantee it, so I do it as I can. But I also have tried to be faithful to the weekly posts announcing what the next week's video is going to be, kind of a teaser of upcoming reviews. I do it when I'm able to. I can't preview the next topic in advance when I don't even know what the next topic is going to be. But typically, as this week's video is uploading, I am over there on Ko-fi typing up a little thing. Hey, here's what's coming up next Saturday. Over here on YouTube, I am contemplating being a little more active with community posting. That could be polls, but could also be things like sharing videos I like, or links, or just saying, hey, here's a thought I had. Something that I don't necessarily want to make a video about, but I just want to toss it out there. Would people like that? A few years ago, or a couple years ago, YouTube was really pushing the community post feature. Before that, they were pushing for vlogs. Now they're pushing people to make shorts. That is a format that I don't think works for me. But the community posting feature, that is an idea that I have toyed with, because there are times when I'm watching a video and I really love it, or I just wish I knew what people's thoughts were on something, and I think it would be nice to send out a little post about whatever thought I had, or just share the video with someone who might be glad to see it. I don't know. Would people like that? What do you think? For example, you might remember a year ago, or maybe it was more than that, I read The Snow Goose by Paul Gallico, and I loved it. A couple months ago, I think it was a couple months ago, someone told me about a rare audio version of The Snow Goose with music performed by the London Symphony Orchestra, and she gave me a link to a video where you could hear it on YouTube. As usual, it took me a while to get to it, but while I was decorating our Christmas tree, I gave it a listen, and oh my goodness, I was swept away, and it was absolutely beautiful. I was so drawn into the story that the last part, I almost started crying, and then as soon as it was over, I was like, that was so good, I need to listen to it again. So I replayed it. Fortunately, it does take me about an hour and a half to put all of our ornaments on the tree, and especially the finicky way that I do it. And when it came to that part again near the end, or at the end, I was crying, and it was just such a good experience, and I've listened to it several times since. So I want to give a huge thank you to Terry Johnson for recommending it to me, and I wanted to tell you about it. It's only 41 minutes long, with narration by Ruth Cracknell. That narration is more than bare bones, but this isn't like an audiobook. It's fairly minimal, so that the emphasis can stay on the music. But both are lovely, and both work together to tell the story. And it's got some fun parts, especially the goose's walking theme, but it's also dreamy and kind of ethereal at times, and it's rich, and the melodies are just so, and it's so moving. I loved the story. I had no idea what direction it was going to go in. I read it all in one sitting, which was very easy to do. It's only a novella. And then this, I didn't know what to expect from the music. I felt like, I don't know. But it was such a good pairing. So, that's the kind of thing that I would like to share sometimes. I don't necessarily want to do a whole video talking about it. I don't have a whole lot to say besides, hey, this is really good. So I would just like to put it out there and say, here's this link. I listened to this, is wonderful, and I think if you're interested, you should give it your full, undivided attention for 41 minutes. It will not have the same impact if you just put it on as background music, background noise. You gotta be listening to it so that you can get engrossed in the story and you can really appreciate the music. So maybe I would only make a few community posts a year. I don't know, it remains to be seen, but I would like to know beforehand how you'd feel about it. Probably the majority of you just feel like, do whatever you want, I don't care. But I do like to get feedback on things before I just start doing them. And I think that's about all I have for loose ends here. So tell me what you think. Share your thoughts in the comments below on any of the things that I mentioned. You can go all the way back to the beginning of the video. Oh, it's over there. And tell me what you think of this Richard Denning framed photo, and do you think that I should review like half a dozen Richard Denning movies this year so that every time I have to get this picture out and hang it up on my shelf? Go ahead and share your thoughts in the comments below, and tune in next time for what I promise will be a movie review. Thanks for watching!